Welcome guys and girls, and I wanted to introduce you to my new main module version 3. For this demo, I want to introduce you the components of this demo. Here we have, of course, the main module 3 itself. We have, this is representing the power of the PA and P buttons. This here is, when I push it, it just sends power as if it was the ignition key switch, key on. Then of course we have a countdown, ID Janili voice box, and then these two boards over here are going to represent what goes on with the entire dash itself. Okay. This main module 3 here comes in this box, has mounting flanges, all that good stuff, but also has this little extra port. This little extra port is just a plug that you get to use to trigger something special with the new key fob button B. Button A, you'll see what it does in a little bit. Button B, you're able to wire. Primarily it's going to be the the black and yellow. In the black and yellow, black is common, yellow is normally open. And when you trigger the B button, it closes it like a switch and triggers whatever you want. In this particular case, a couple of recommendations that I have is a garage door opener. So you have this on your keychain. You have your keys for your car, your little kit car. Button A, you'll see here in a minute. Button B opens up your garage door. And then I'll demonstrate how you can also use button B for the soundboard and how that works. So as before, on all the other versions, I have instructions listed on the circuit board as far as what screw terminal goes to what, both here and here. Over here is your main power that comes in. First screw is going to be your main battery power. Middle screw is going to be your 12-volt key on ignition. And then the third screw is going to be your car ground, the actual chassis ground. The other screw terminals here, as I said, are labeled before. And here's a close-up picture of that. The second side is where all the dash electronics get attached to. All these boards, the 3 rows, the 6 rows, the steering pod, not the voice box. The voice box actually has its own terminal over here. But you can get your ground for your voice box right there. You can also put the LCD screen on here, as well as the surveillance mode if you're using it. Oxygen vent if you're putting it in your dash. Well, it's a computer printout. What else did he have? Yeah, surveillance. Oh, seat eject. Don't forget about seat eject. So all that stuff can go on this. And the reason for that is because this gives you the delayed turn on sequence. So let me go and turn it on by hitting the push button here. So you see at the 4th step here, and when the 4th step comes out, bam, the lights come on. Now this is an older ID Janili voice box. Since then, he's actually gotten a new version. But he actually offers a 5th step, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 step. Now what that means is, instead of, you can wire to that, this box to that, and what it'll do is, when you first turn it on, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th step is a later, after the 4, obviously 5th, so that's later. When the normal bar comes on, then everything will turn on. So you have your choice on that particular voice box if you wanted to hook it up to the 4th step countdown or the 5th step. Let's see that again. You also see that the power light for the PMP actually comes on as well, only when it's triggered. Turn it off, it goes off. Now, as I said, this starts off with the key. Now, one thing I do like is I really do think the dash should turn on with a key. Because if the car's running and you're driving, you want to know how fast you're going, how fast the engine speed is, what's your engine temperature, how much gas do you have, fuel left, or whatever you want to call it. So let's turn the key on. You can see that the power button light still came on, even though I didn't push it. Now, if you turn it on by the dash, you get in the car, you drive away, you get where you got to go, you take the key out, the dash turns off. Exactly the way I think it should be. This should be very automatic. We are talking about the Night Industry 2000. But here's where the special feature comes in on this version 3. I told you what the second button does. What does the first button do? Let's find out. That's right. I just started my dash, activated my dash by pressing a key fob button. Also turns it off. Turn it back on. You have 3 ways to turn this off. A, button, you can turn it off with. Put the key in. Get where you got to go. Put it back in park, turn the key off. And as you see, everything turns off. Activate it again. The third way to turn off the dash, turn it off. Everything's off. That's how easy it is to operate this thing. Now I can see where some people may get a little intimidated as far as hooking it up. And you're also going to ask yourself, that's great, this is ID Janili, but I have Jupiter. I have Brennan's voice box. What does that do? Same thing. Brennan's voice box and Jupiter's voice box can also be hooked up here without a problem. This is universal, and it can start a Brennan, Jupiter, or ID Janili voice box. As of right now, until further testing, this cannot operate a ZA electronics, but I do believe there is going to be able to do some integration with this, and hopefully a future video comes soon explaining such things. But we'll see how far I can get with that. So now that I've went through the steps as far as how this box works and how you turn it on by turning on the key, hitting the power button, or simply activating the dash, let's see what the B button does. Well, the B button here, in this case, I have my garage door plugged into it, my car door opener. And how I did this is, again, yellow and black. As I said, black is common, yellow is normally open. And I'll zoom in here. You can see that this button here is the one that opens up my garage door. You can hear it opening. Hit it again, and now I'll close it. So that still works. So what I did was I soldered them to the switch points. That's it. And then you can put everything back together. I also drilled holes. Drill a hole here on the side, you guys can see. Drill a hole inside so when it's closed, the wires can come through it. And now let's hit the B button. Door open. Hit the B button again. Door stop. Hit the button again. Door close. So as I told you, that's what can happen. Now when you do use it for the garage door opener, the battery still needs to be accessible. So what I would do is I would take this, and the wire is pretty long here, as you can see, and make it accessible. You want to be able to access it and drop it down, whether or not you got a wire tie holding this up behind your monitors, because that's where I recommend putting this, is behind your TV monitors. Season 1, 2, 3, 4 doesn't matter. I recommend putting it behind your TV monitors. And you want to be able to access it to change the battery when the battery goes dead. So that's why I said don't make it accessible. So what happens if you don't want a garage door opener, or you don't have it? What's your other alternatives? Well, if I had something set up already, I would do it. But you can also use the B button to actually pop the hatch if you wanted to. It will require an outside additional relay, and you can easily find, just Google positive trunk release alarm circuit, and that will tell you how to wire up a relay. And the one part it won't tell you is to take the black wire here and put that to a ground in here, and then this yellow wire here will then go to the external relay that'll operate the hatch, trunk, whatever you want to call it, pop, solenoid. So let's see what else we can do with this thing. So let's unplug this real quick, and I'll take that out. What else can I do? I have an MP3 player. Now this is an older MP3 player. This one you can buy from Electronics 123 here if you're in the States, America. But you can also buy this in China from the original manufacturer. It's called flyerontech.com. I'll put a link below for that. This is the 20 channel, and the reason why this one's important and the reason why I'm promoting this one, again, the new one is actually smaller, by the way. The reason why I'm promoting this one is because you see these two little blue squares here? Those are called trimmer pots, and those are used for volume control, left channel, right channel. Now the reason why that's important, that these are separate, not one knob controlling both, but two knobs controlling the volumes, is because I can make one output loud for the speaker, and then I can turn one way down and put it to the KITT voice box. Now let's see how that works. A little sound effect there. Now I only got 3 files on this SD card, and it is set up for random, so we may hear the same one a couple times, and I just got to keep hitting the button. Oh, a little Phil Collins.
Calling.
Phil Collins again.
I had the distinct impression he was trying to impress the caller.
Can you blame him? You're one of a kind.
Thank you.
Oh, Devin! Thought you were out joyriding in the Pennington semi.
Now,
well, in recent months, there's been a rash of custom and classic car theft.
I want to tell you guys something.
Excuse me.
Is the dash on?
I'm doing just as you asked, Michael.
Nope.
Snapping
Can be.
pictures of every woman who walks by. I feel absolutely ludicrous, like a second-rate spy
Or
in a
not.
B movie.
It's gotta be done. Devin
And
just
again,
might be
it
able
doesn't
to
matter.
ID someone.
I suppose. Are you making any progress?
No bites yet. But I'll continue working the party and show everybody I'm in the market.
Working the party? You call making small talk and drinking margaritas working?
So you just saw me trigger the voice box. Trigger the soundboard, which played to the voice box, and the dash wasn't even on. Now that, just want to let you guys know, that is an ID Janili standard feature. If you look in the back of his voice box, there's actually 2 power terminals. One that says 12 vox. Get the light glare out. You see 12 vox, which means it's powering the voice box only. And then 12 volts, which actually starts the entire countdown sequence. And these stickers are just here so the beeping of the countdown tone gen is quieter. That's all that's for. So anyway, so because of that feature, as we saw in the TV show, when KITT wasn't running, he was just sitting in a parking lot. The dash wasn't on, the lights on the side weren't on, but he was able to talk. So you're able to mimic that with an ID Janili voice box. So again,
Devin's calling.
there you go. So my 3 recommendations right off the bat for what you can do with the B button is trigger a soundboard, which I think is going to be very popular amongst people. Open up a solder to your garage door opener, make your garage door open from it, and pop the hatch. There's probably other ones I'm thinking of. This is just a pulse trigger. You can only make it do pulse triggers. You cannot make it latch. It's literally pulse on. You hit it, it's on. You take a button off, it's off. Some people also refer to it as toggle or momentary. So I want to let you know that's how this thing works. If you guys let me show you what the board actually looks like a little bit up close. So here's one a little bit up close, and you can see the terminals here are actually marked. And you can see the terminals. So again, we have 12 volt battery, okay, 12 volt ignition, 12 volt ground, and this one here, it's a little hidden by the terminal there, isn't it? That one is in from the power button, so that actually goes to your power button. I do have a manual on this, a PDF. When you do purchase this, I will send you the PDF, giving you clear instructions with diagrams. And this is a trigger from the voice box, 4th lamp. So it's talking about the output from the voice box that would typically go here, you literally have 2 wires in one. As you can see here, 2 wires in one. One wire going to here, second wire going to the countdown trigger input. Then we have 12-volt out to the countdown lamps. Right here. Countdown lamp has 12 volts. I have all these joined together with a wire coming out, and that's what goes right there. Then we have 12-volt out to the PMP power lamp, and that's what illuminates, turns on the power lamp right there. Then we have 12-volt out to the voice box power terminal. And again, this is where I was telling you before about ID Janelle, in case people get confused. There are 2 power triggers here. So if you want that feature to where the soundboard or the VU meter, his little kit mouth, if you want to talk, if you want to say when he talks, you want that to battery, and you want to feed the 12-volt out to the voice box to the second terminal right there. If you don't care if the voice box is able to be triggered or when the key is off, then you want to take the wire from here out the voice box and literally put 1 wire and then jump them together. Just take a small piece of wire, something like this. You take the wire, you put it together, and you literally bridge, also called jumper, the first 2 terminals together. And again, that's only if you do not want the voice box to operate independently. And then the last screw terminal here is for activation of the remote module. Now that's going to be a next video here, guys, showing you how the remote module works and what it's used for. But I've actually increased the features on that, so it does not have to work with this. It's going to operate independently. And again, I'll show you all about that later. And then, of course, the port, as I said before, is for the little plug that operates off of the B button. Now, this remote is a really good, hefty remote. It is made out of metal. It's not going to crack easy because of plastic. That's why I picked it. And also, you can slide a guard on it, and that way you don't accidentally trigger your dash or pop your drunk or whatever you got anything hooked up to. These jumper wires inside here, I mean, not jumper wires, but a jumper. Now this here is either for ground trigger or power trigger. Again, this was designed to either work with Brennan, Jupiter, ID Janelle voice boxes, and they are different, as I discussed. ID Janelle and ZA all have negative triggers that come out of the voice box in order to activate the countdown. Brennan and Jupiter, older electronics, all have positive triggers. So if you have an older setup and you want this feature, you can do that. Like I said, you just take it from negative and you move it over to the positive. Just like that. Now you're ready. Now you're ready to get that 12-volt jumper wire from a Brennan or Jupiter voice box. These are modular in case God forbid anything goes bad, but you know, I do have a lot of overseas customers, and if I can send them something that's small and tiny, it'll get there quicker, faster, and cheaper than if they have to send this board back. I repair it and send it. It's a lot easier. And there is one other thing. This jumper right here. And again, I have instructions for this jumper right here, and I have instructions for this jumper right there, all written on the board. All my instructions are written on the board. The J1 jumper, which this, will disable the startup sequence from A. So if you hit A and that jumper is pulled, it won't do anything to the dash, not a thing. You're literally disabling it, and I'm giving everybody the option to do whatever they want. I figured more features, more versatility. The 2 fuses on the side. So the 10 amp fuse here, the 10 amp fuse is for all powers everything out, which again, the dash, could be a soundboard if you want that to be triggered and not off the battery. LCD screens, steering pods, 6-row, 3-row dummies, whatever you want. And then the 2 amp is actually for the circuitry inside. So the 2 amp circuitry is also triggered now in the 10 amp. These two items right here, these two looks like little chips, are called optocouplers. And they are on sockets, so they're actually removable. Again, if there ever has to be a problem, in case somebody says, hey Tony, I goofed, I put power in when I should have put a ground and I didn't move the jumper, you fried something accidentally, we can send you a cheap part out quick, and there's no need to send it to me for repair. So just wanted to give you that. And as far as the range, the next question is going to be is, how far can you go with this thing? I mean, what is the range on this? How far can you go? Let's find out. Well, there's a little bit of daylight. I know there's going to be a question as far as how far is the range? How far can I go and still be able to use this thing? Well, as you can see, it starts up the car just fine. But then again, I'm only like, 4 feet away from it. And it also opens up my garage door. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my garage door. I'm going to walk as far as I can across the street for myself. And if it can close the garage door, obviously it's getting right. It can do it. But I really don't think we're going to be able to see the electronics on the hood of my car while I'm way across the street. So let's find out how far I can go. And we're about as far as we can go. We're not going to be able to see the electronics, but as I stated, if the garage door goes down, then it sees a signal. Garage door is going down. I would say, guys, this is at least 80 feet of range through buildings. Obviously, this is a complete line of sight. If you're actually going to have it in a parking structure, carport, walls, fluorescent lighting affects it, the range may shrink. But I mean, if you're just at a car show and say, for instance, you want to use the second button here for a soundboard trigger, which you'll also see in my demo video here, you'll have no problem doing so. So that was a quick clip to show you I was able to walk completely across my street and still trigger the voice box, or trigger my main module, which is connected to the voice box, connected to whatever you want. Videos will run a little long here, guys. Hope I'm not losing you too badly. And again, key fob RF transmitter activation, and you can turn this thing on and off 3 different ways. Turn it on and off with the key, turn it on and off with the power button, turn the dash on and off with the key fob RF transmitter. And that's it. That is it. I hope you guys love it. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below or send me a Facebook message. My Facebook address will be in the description below. Thank you so much, guys, for watching.